Well, hello once again. Behind me is an officer pulling me over. No. Behind me is my 2007 Police Interceptor P71 Ford Crown Victoria. It was a police car. It was actually a captain's car. It was also supposed to just be a temporary purchase, and now I'm in love with it. So I'm back once again in my lovely Riverside little park area. It is windy, and I'm trying to cup the microphone, but hopefully there's not a lot of wind noise. This is Florida, and while most of the country, I believe 47 states, are completely frozen over and everyone's dead, Florida, it's like 80 degrees and I'm sweating my ass off already. Why buy a cop car? Don't they get beaten to hell? Don't they get mistreated and abused because it's not your own personal vehicle? Well, yes they do, but they're also very well maintained. Cities have a vested interest, literally, in keeping them running and good. And then when they do sell them at auction, they fix them up as much as possible. This is the second Police Interceptor that I have purchased, and the third, technically fourth, one of these I have been in ownership of. Sure, my girlfriend has an LX version of this car, which is, fully loaded leather interior, all that fun stuff. I purchased, and then she purchased from me. Then I've had the former Taxi, which was well used, and then this. Plus I had a Lincoln Town Car, which is the same Panther platform, just longer, and just more Lincoln-y. This one is unlike any of those. The last Interceptor I had was nice. It was fun. I had to have the transmission completely rebuilt when I bought it. It literally would only go into reverse. That thing lived its complete life out. I gave it to my girlfriend. She drove it into the ground, and then it went to the junkyard. This one, on the other hand, very nice. It drives like it has performance mods. It does not have performance mods, but it is so much quicker than any other Panther platform I've ever driven, and I love it. If you did not watch the Porsche video, I'll very quickly recap. I purchased this as a filler vehicle between when I needed a car and when I planned on trading this thing in on a brand new 2021 either Charger or an Alfa Romeo or some sort of sport sedan, nice new car. And now that's not going to happen. I love this vehicle. I've done the exhaust. I've done a few things. I've done the exhaust, and I've done a few upgrades to it. So let's go over some of the exterior stuffs on this car, and it's not nice. First things first, you'll notice the black grille. That's an Interceptor thing. This is burned out completely. Like, this is melted. It's actually melted. You can't really see at all, but there's like a divot here. If you look inside there, you got a hole drilled. That's where strobes went. Same thing on this side. I am lucky in that I don't have a hole here where side lights used to go. That is very common with these. The headlights are relatively new. Obviously, I don't need to polish them up or anything, which is nice. It's got the steelies all the way around. I bought another one so that I would have a spare tire. They are extremely cheap, these steel wheels. I think I paid like 60 bucks, found the place online. So this car was not originally all white. That is extremely easy to check out because, hey, look. But, it was a cop car. So, you're gonna get that. A couple things that I can't stand that they did. Cop cars, the Interceptors, that is supposed to be black. And there's a little badge that says Police Interceptor. And then these little white strips on the bottom there, those are supposed to be black as well. That denotes an Interceptor. They're chrome on regular cars. But then again, also a lot of this black trim is also chrome too. I hate that. I don't even like, we're not gonna be in the back of this car anymore. So I don't know if you can tell, but there are like dents, little ones, like all over the place. But even worse is just the absolutely atrocious paint job, mostly denoted by that huge run, of which there are several, and a couple things that there's like, I swear it's like they paid a homeless guy $5, which is insulting even to a homeless guy, to paint this, and they gave him 7 minutes to do it, and they said do it in a parking lot in the rain at night with your eyes closed with no paint. Another horrible thing, if you can see, I don't even know if it's showing up, but yeah, so this entire hood, like I said in the previous video, looks like a dry lake bed. The weird part is it's smooth. So it's like they painted this It dried, cracked horribly, and then they clear coated over top of it. Very strange. They paid zero mind whatsoever to the hole in the roof for where the top light was. That's just weld. They just welded stuff on there and said, all right, we're done. And then just removed the antenna. Also, unfortunately, they took my spotlight. This used to be a hole that saw all the way through into the car, which on the highway was loud. So I taped it. That's duct tape. Technically, that's a duct. I mean, it allows air to travel from here to there, so it's a duct. So duct tape. Hooray! I use duct tape properly, unlike everyone else on the internet. Let's go inside and see some more upgrades. Massaging seat. Technically a massaging seat cover, but hey, whatever. When was the last time you saw a vehicle with 4 cup holders up front? I'm just saying, 4 cup holders. And honestly, this wedges in here pretty good. And I mean, just take my word for it, it's good. Another high-tech addition. Backup camera. So this vehicle is mid upgrade. It's a project vehicle, whatever. First off, the speedometer goes higher in an Interceptor than it does in a regular Crown Vic. You have your miles, but you also have hours. That's probably not going to be surprising to some people, but other people might be surprised to find out that this vehicle has mileage and it has hours. And this is a common thing for work vehicles. Police cars will have it, construction site vehicles, stuff like that. Also boats run on hours, but this lets you know really how much work the engine has done because it has sat with the engine running for a long period of time. There is a bug driving by backfiring. That's what that is. That is a new Beetle backfiring as it drives by at about 25 miles an hour. This thing's got some pretty high hours and then about average on the miles, as you'd expect. That's an eBay special right there, boys and girls. Push start. I needed to get keyless entry for this vehicle. Let's take a look in here. See how that doesn't look like a keyhole? Commonly at auctions, they will not have the keys for these vehicles. So they just drill out the keyholes. This one uses a Lincoln key. It's just for the ignition. Obviously, that doesn't do anything at all. It doesn't need the chip. It's just the key itself, which of course is a lot of fun because I've also got a real Ford key on here as well. So I keep trying to use the wrong keys. It was the same price to get the keyless entry with push start as it was to get regular keyless entry. The fun part on this one is you push to start and then you still got to put the key in the ignition. And then when you turn the key off, you then have to hold this button down to turn the car off or the engine keeps running. I am not an Uber driver, and most of you will know that I was a cab driver for many years. I will never be an Uber driver. I have very strong feelings about them. So this is just because there's no place to put my phone. And then another upgrade, I took out the factory radio and put in this nice Pioneer head unit, which is the exact same one that's in the Porsche. Speaking of factory head unit, this is the factory head unit in a cop car. No tape deck, no CD player, just radio. That's all you need for a radio, apparently. That is extremely narrow. This is something that some people might want to take into consideration if they ever want to, hey, look, a cop car. See how he's got the black thing on the back of his car? The black strip there on the trunk lid? Bastards. If you want to buy one of these to upgrade the CD player, there's a problem. There's like no depth behind here. If you want to install anything that's got a disc player in it, you're going to have to cut into your air conditioning vents because they run directly behind here and there is maybe that much room. This radio actually is just narrow enough that you can just shove it in there and it will hold in place. Anything with a disc player requires a lot of modification behind there or you're going to lose your air conditioning, which is bad, especially in Florida. I'm sweating my ass off just talking to you guys. Speaking of air conditioning, just like every other Ford vehicle in the world that has this style air conditioning controls, there's really only 2 settings, and that is, why do you have it on? And hey, look, the air conditioning. And also it's blowing you out of the car. So there's only 2 settings in most Fords, and that is super high or why bother, and that's it. Now, this part works fine. Unfortunately, this car also came without the cup holders and cigarette lighter that goes there. So this is a temporary mod where I added in some cigarette ports for dash cam and the seat massager. There will be a center console going to be built in here with a bunch of stuff that's going to go on it. That'll come in a later video. Visors are in the trunk because they are crap. I basically just removed them. Oh, hey, you like my name tag? But also I found a very good use for these little clips. It's my mask holder. Most cop cars will come with this light here. There's usually a red dome on it to give red light inside the car. Red light helps you keep your night vision. That's why DJ booths also have red lighting. Most of the time you get one of these, the cover's gonna be gone, there won't be a bulb. This is just like a brake light bulb, to be honest. So I actually took a brake light bulb for a motorcycle, which is red, and I put it in here, so I've got red lights. I also had to replace these with LEDs. None of this worked when I first got in. Also, you'll notice the door is open and my dome lights are not on. That pin switch just doesn't work at all. So there's no, you have to manually turn on the lights in this vehicle. No visors, extra lighting. This also came, they just decided to leave the microphone hook there. So this is where the mic would go. This is a P71 thing, the sticker. Everyone wants this sticker for some reason. I have no idea why. Here, you can read it. But the only way to pop the trunk is with the key on. Key's not on, no trunk pop here. Key off, nothing. Key on, hey, trunk pops. You got these big, thick, heavy seats in the front with this like tweedish material and airbags built into the seat itself. That's what this little tag is saying, that there's an airbag on it. And then the back seat is leather, or pleather probably. This is common. My other cop car was the same way. Every taxi that I drove that was a cop car was the same way. So what are the plans for this vehicle? Well, I'm going to maintain it and fix little things here and there. I may not ever touch that paint. It's awful, but it makes this sort of seem like a nice sleeper. Who knows? The motor's very strong, even with 120,000 miles on it and 4,000 hours, apparently. I've taken this thing on multiple road trips. It's been all the way down to Key West. It's going to possibly take me to Las Vegas later in this year. I'm going to go for the Mint 400. The off-road race in Vegas at the beginning of December. I considered a supercharger, and then I realized that it's going to cost twice what I paid for this car to do it. Doesn't really make any sense. Brakes, maybe someday. If I ever warp these rotors, they're coming off. It's going to get a big brake kit. Otherwise, it's perfectly fine as it is. I've already upgraded the exhaust on this vehicle. It just was pitiful. Absolutely pitiful before. Did not match the caliber of this vehicle, the feeling of driving this car. And so I changed that. It's got a K&N that would make the second super cheap used Ford I purchased over the past year that already had a K&N filter up front. So thank you for my extra up to 40 horsepower. Exhaust had to be done as well. The factory exhaust on this vehicle is a just monster, huge muffler that's actually a resonator and muffler combined. It's at least 3 feet long. So I've got Flowmaster Series 40s on this, dual exhaust. Let's take a listen. So, what are the pitfalls of owning what is essentially a cheap cop car? These are relatively cheap. I bought this for $3,400, which is on the low side of average for a really good model. I've seen them lower, but some of them have had pretty hard lives. I've been underneath this thing. The frame is straight, which was very important to me. Obviously, the engine is just fabulous in this car. You just got to do your work, look around. They are everywhere. They're still very plentiful currently. At the way Cletus is going through them, though, that could change pretty quickly if he has another Freedom 500 with all Crown Vics that he bought. So, I need to get a trunk from him though. Maybe we'll see. Problems with owning one of these. First off, they're gas hogs. It's an old school V8, no cylinder deactivation, no automatic turning off at stoplights, none of that stuff. I get, I think, like 17 on the highway, and depending on how I put my foot into it, maybe 19 around town. Yes, I get worse on the highway. The problem with this vehicle that I've noticed, the thing that I would like to change the most, which I probably won't, would be I would love to add one more gear. I need another high gear for this car. On the highway, I took this thing to Orlando last night, took my girlfriend out to dinner. On the highway, you're cruising at like 3,000 RPM, which is just absolutely guzzling gas. Around town, I'm cruising, you know, under 15, and it's just burbling along, and it's just great. And then you put your foot into it and you just go. Actually, you know what? This light's gonna change. I got a Challenger behind me. Yes, there's a cop right there. She's not even looking. This thing peels out very easily, does burnouts very easily. It's a fun car. Parts are plentiful. If it breaks, you're fine. There are some differences between an Interceptor and a regular Crown Vic in the way that the body panels are attached to it, and suspension, and obviously the transmission. One thing that you really are going to run into is that nobody seems to understand what makes an Interceptor versus just a regular Crown Vic. There is a trans cooler and I believe an oil cooler in the front that you don't have on a normal Crown Vic. The speedometer obviously goes a little bit higher, and it's the transmission that makes this an Interceptor. The motor's exactly the same. There's no chip. I love hearing that one. Oh, you got that Interceptor chip. There's no chip. There's no map for it. It's not tuned. It has a stronger transmission. It doesn't make the vehicle faster. It makes the vehicle sturdier. There's a beautiful Porsche Macan in front of me here that I can see my own reflection in. God, that's on my teeth. Essentially, the idea is that this vehicle can go like 120 miles an hour indefinitely. If you did, or maybe it's a little higher, whatever, there's a specific number that they designed this thing to be able to do, like 137, 127 miles, something like that. You were to do the same thing in a normal Crown Vic, the transmission would detonate. It would eventually tear itself apart. You might be able to do it for an hour or so, maybe not even that long. And eventually the drive shaft would just break and the transmission would die. This vehicle is designed to be able to do that. That's what makes it an Interceptor. This one being faster than any other one that I've ever driven, it doesn't make any sense. I don't know why. I'm not complaining. I'm just glad. Maybe it's because it was Captain's car and therefore it was better taken care of. Who knows? Maybe it's been modded out and I can't tell if it's all inside. I don't know. Another issue with driving a former cop car is that everyone knows a cop car when they see one, and no one will go fast in front of you. You will be stuck behind people going slow all the time, constantly. If you like to drive faster than the speed limit, which some people like to do, some people in this video, you won't be able to, because there's always someone in front of you who thinks you're a cop. Especially if you have a crew cut and you're wearing glasses and it just looks like you're in an unmarked car. No one will go fast in front of you until they realize that you're not a cop. Now, if you paint your car another color, it's a different story. So, if this was red, it'd be fine, but it's white. I am clearly driving a former police car. No one's gonna speed in front of me. If they don't think you're a cop, they think you're a taxi. I've actually had a guy get in this car when I stopped to deliver something to my girlfriend at work and asked me to take him someplace. I did. I actually took him. So I'm sure you've heard the exhaust as I was driving and talking to you, but the windows are up. So let's drop the windows and hear what this thing sounds like when you get on it. I have to get out of traffic, but this should be nice. It's also really, really hot in here, and I'm glad to have the windows down. Well, that's nice. That never gets old. Another issue with this vehicle is that it does not have cruise control, does not have a horn. I've never actually ever seen an Interceptor where the horn works. Maybe I've just got bad luck, but the horn's just done for. There's no cruise control at all, which makes this really not the ideal road trip car until I get one installed. I really wish it had heated seats like the Porsche. What's in the future for this car? The next time you see this car, I'm going to be putting an undercar lighting kit on it, which is apparently something that I can never not do. I love putting lights under my cars. The Porsche is probably the only one that won't get it. And even then, never say never. So I'm going to actually do a video of me installing the whole lighting kit in this car. It'll be in depth. This will be car number 5 of mine that has XK glow lighting on it. If you count the Dodge, which is dead now. I appreciate you guys tuning in, watching my videos. If you really like what you saw, or maybe think in the future you're gonna like what I do once I know how to do what I'm doing, make sure you like and subscribe, tell all your friends, and check back again for the next video. We've still got 2 more cars to cover. We got the 29 Model A, and we've got my F-150, plus the install of the lighting kit on this vehicle, which should be coming soon. Until then, always buckle up, and remember, if you're in a strip club, tip the DJ.